Can you go and start passing out that?
I don't know where. How do you get it to your high school?
Just post on Facebook or something. All right. Oh gosh, this is so freaking annoying. Why do they make it so hard? Huh? This week, Hello, Josh. Did you have any trouble finding? If you're here, can you go ahead and just write a little greeting on the side in the chat? I'll be right back. Hi, Joanna. How are you? You're doing well. Obviously, hopefully you're doing better than I am, because I am, man, way too just lost on this whole technology thing today. Because, man, streaming on YouTube, I realized, isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. It's definitely a lot more complicated than I had originally wanted it to be. So just give me a few seconds. I'm trying to figure out how all this stuff is working. I'm still learning, still trying to figure out how all this stuff is kind of going on. Oop. Yeah, stuff like that. I'm telling you, man, sometimes it's just a pain in the butt, man. Technology is supposed to make things easier, but sometimes it just makes things harder. All right. Well, it looks like we got about 8 viewers. Like I said, if you're here, let me get a little hello or a hi and real quick in the live chat on the side over there. I'd like to definitely find out who is watching these live streams. I'm gonna turn the fan on because it's a little bit hot, but let me know if you guys are having trouble hearing me or if the fan is too loud or whatever it may be. Please go ahead and let me know. I'm gonna grab a drink real quick and then I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim. Didn't mean to blow up your speakers like that. Hello. Hello, Rebecca. Hello, Joyce. How are you two doing? Hopefully you guys are all doing pretty well. Praise report on my end. I am now officially on summer break. Me and Pastor Steve both finished our finals this past week. Oh, wait. I have this is my little bubbly drink. I'm going to put this far away from my laptop because I learned my lesson after Pastor Steve spilled soda all over his. He actually sent his laptop into the Apple Store, I believe, because he needs to turn it in and stuff to get it fixed. All right. We're gonna wait like another, well, let's like wait like another 2 minutes. In the meantime, why don't you all greet one another on the side chats over there? You know, I'm sure some of you haven't seen each other in a long time. I don't know, Rebecca, Joyce, I don't know when's the last time you guys saw each other. Joanna, anyone else over there? Tim, I haven't seen like your physical face in like, man, is it like February, March, sometime around that? I think that's the last time I actually saw you face to face. It's been definitely a long time. Joshua, I saw you recently when I dropped off Boba at your place after you finished the Proverbs challenge. Congratulations, by the way, Josh, finishing the Proverbs challenge. I know we got you Boba, but we also have a wonderful dinner planned for you once quarantine and all this stuff is over. I know stuff is starting to open up now, but until everything is 100% safe, well, maybe not 100% safe, I'd just rather not go to places where people are. So I'm going to try to, you know, wait until we're all safe before I take you guys out. But yeah, a couple things. First off, like I said in last Sunday's announcement, there will be a new challenge coming up soon. I'm going to give you guys a preview of that right now. All 8 of you that are watching my live stream, we are going to be doing a catechism challenge. Basically, for those of you guys that do know catechism, particularly the 8th graders and the 9th graders, because I feel like since I started, I've been trying to do catechism with you guys for like forever. I even threw out like challenges. Even some of you 7th graders, you guys know, where if you can memorize all of the Westminster, the New City Catechism, I would give you $100. I made this promise, and I think for the class before that, I did Westminster Shorter Catechism. If you can memorize all that, $100. But so far in the 2 years that I've done it, none of you guys have ever done it. I think I even upped it to like $200 one year, but you guys didn't even do it. Josh, or not Josh. Yeah, Josh, you got up to like, I don't even know if Josh is here. He's probably not even watching this live stream right now. I don't even know what he's doing. Not you, Josh Kim. The other Josh Kim, the 7th grade Josh Kim. He's probably sleeping or playing video games or something. He doesn't play video games. I don't know what he does. But he got up to like question number 6. And that's pretty much as far as he went. Yeah, about restaurants, a lot of them only allow 1 person per table as of right now. Man, that's weird. I'm not going to take you guys out and put you all at 1 table per person. That's it's kind of sad. I'd just rather not do it. All right. Well, I didn't actually expect a lot of people to be showing up today. I know why serve is definitely not one of those topics that are like really popular and people are like super like curious about why you should serve in the church. But I feel like this is a very important topic for all of us to learn, mostly because the statistics are, I mean, we're not even talking about serving at the church. It's the statistics for serving within the church. There's a saying, they say that, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 10% of the people do 90% of the work. That's a saying about churches, where it's a very small, dedicated group of individuals that serve and get the stuff done within the church. But today my focus isn't so much on that, but it's important for us as believers, as Christians, to understand that the reason why we do serve, it goes beyond anything than just serving and just doing anything within the church. There's a much deeper reason for why we as believers have to serve within the church. And part of that is having a proper understanding of what the purpose of church in this world is. Pareto distribution. I don't know what that means. Tim is correcting me. He's saying it's about 20% of the people doing 80% of the work. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's a very small percentage of the people in church that do all of the work. And I know for those of you guys that have been youth group that have served, you definitely know that, man, sometimes it just really does feel like you're the only ones doing the work. But more than anything else, especially for you senior high students. I don't know how many senior high students are watching this right now, but the statistics for people who continue on serving within the church after they graduate from high school is actually pretty grim. They say that I think it's about 50%, half the students who graduate from church youth group actually don't end up going to church in college, and very few of them return back to church later in their young adult and their adult years. And so for today, we're going to talk a little bit about why is it so important to serve within the church, so that you do not become one of these statistics. Okay, but before we do that, let me pray for all of us, and then we're going to move forward on with that. Let's pray. Father God, Lord, I want to thank you for this day, Lord, for the ones that you have brought. Lord, may you just be with us in this time, that it will be a time where we could encourage one another, that as I share, that as I speak, it would be a time where they would be edified, Lord, that they would grow, they would be encouraged, and Father, that they will understand more and more the importance of serving within your church. So be with us today, and I pray all this in your Son's name. Amen. Couple things. First off, I am experimenting with Google Slides, so I actually have no idea. Like, I typed it up and everything, but I have no idea because I don't have a preview and I don't know how to work this thing because I just started using it. I don't have a preview on my screen, so I don't know what's on there. So if I have any mistakes or anything, please forgive me ahead of time. Okay. So today, Cpc Yg Fuel. Why serve? Why serve? Why serve within the church? Why serve at all? Why do any sort of service in general? We're going to be talking about that. First off, before we talk about serving, we need to understand, what does it mean to serve? What does it mean to serve? And I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes, like maybe 1 minute, all right, to kind of just type up in the chat, what do you think it means to serve? I want to interact with you guys because this is not me pre-recorded. This is me live. Go ahead on the chat right now. What do you think? What does it mean to serve? Go ahead and write that down. Give you guys a minute while I am taking a sip of my drink far from my laptop. Getting a lot of messages. I need to text Jesse real quick because he doesn't know that last one got messed up. Let's see. To do thy bidding, to obey, or someone's abiding. Okay. To carry out God's will and spread His word. Okay. To love Him with all that we are, obeying and enjoying Him forever. It looks like Pastor Steve Googled that answer. I don't know if that was an actual answer that he kind of came up with. But yeah, all very good answers. But before we go on to what is serving, let's talk about what serving is not. Okay, what serving is not. Okay, to commit yourself to God. Cheater. To commit yourself to God. Okay, first off, let's talk about what serving is not. First off, serving is not just joining a servant team. It's not just joining a servant team. I know that was maybe one of the answers that you guys were thinking about, that in order for you to serve within the church, that you need to work within a very specific, like a servant team or a very specific structured way, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 to 3, I'm going to read that first. It says, if I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Okay. One of the big things that we need to understand about serving is, like I said, it doesn't have to be within a very structured setting. Okay. Service can come in all different forms. They can come in a lot of different ways. Joining a serving team is a great way for you to figure out how you can serve, but just because you're part of a serving team doesn't mean that you're serving. Okay. Number two, it's not just attending worship. It's not just attending worship. Okay. There's a lot of people, although I will say this, that worship is a part of your service to God. It is part of your service to God. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means a little bit later. But when you go to worship, it is your act of service unto the Lord. Right? But there's a lot of us that when we go to church, when we go and serve, we do it very heartless. We do it without any true love. We have nothing within us, right? So right here is Charles Spurgeon, my man Charles, CS. He says this, he says, stale godliness is ungodliness. Let our religion be as warm and constant and natural as the flow of the blood in our veins. A living God must be served in a living way. A living God must be served in a living way. And, I know definitely this is one of those things that's hard in our own life, to always be serving in a way that's effervescent. It's always very excited with much enthusiasm. But oftentimes we can get to the point where we are getting tired. We get lost. Thank you. Stale bread is not bread. Stale bread is not bread, right? So when we talk about stale godliness, it's not godliness. It's this lack of true godliness within our life. There needs to be something a little bit more there, right? So just because you're attending service, just because you're part of a serving team, doesn't necessarily mean that you are serving God, okay? So these are not acts of service in and of itself. So there are ways to submit to God that only make him look threatening, not thrilling. There are ways to do what he says that only give attention to the fact that he is an authority and not a treasure. When we're talking about service to God, we're talking about something that does bring glory and honor. Stale godliness is not godliness. Oh yeah, stale godliness is ungodliness. Okay. There is something about service where it goes beyond our actual acts of service. It's not the mere physical act of you leading praise. It's not the mere physical act of you welcoming people. There has to be a heart that goes with it. And so what is service then? What is service? It doesn't have to be structured. Like I said, it doesn't have to be within any specific serving team. Not to say that I'm discouraging you from joining a serving team. I think joining a serving team is definitely a great thing, right? But service to God does require everything. Service to God does require everything. Okay. Kirk Willem, I took a lot from him. He wrote this essay on what service is. He says, to serve God is to love him and all that we are, obeying and enjoying him forever. Oh, Steve, are you Kirk Willem? Is this where you got this from? All right. I think that I know your source from where you got this one, right? So he says, to love him with all that we are, obeying and enjoying him forever. When we talk about service to God, we're talking about going back to the very main reason why God created man and woman. Why did God create us? He got it. Steve says he got it from me. We're talking about the main reason why you and I have been created, right? When we talk about God being created, we're talking about God creating all things with his words, right? And he's leaving us as people in charge of it in order to bring honor and glory to the Creator. To bring honor and glory to the Creator. Within all sorts of inventions, with everything that we see, anytime you see anyone create anything, whether it's music or whatever it may be, it points back to the original creator, right? When you listen to a great song, I don't know who's popular these days. I used to make fun of Justin Bieber a lot, but Justin Bieber is a very talented musician. He's very good at what he does. He's a great singer. But when we listen to like their songs and all their creations, we see that it does bring sort of honor and glory back to this original creator, right? Likewise, when we talk about us, you and me, the reason why we serve and why we do these things is to bring glory and love and honor back to our Creator, okay? Joshua 24:15, it says, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So the big question is, what does that look like? What does that look like? What does service to God, what does it look like? Right? John Piper, he says this: it means to do what he says in a way that makes him look supremely valuable in himself. It means to submit to him in a way that makes him look thrilling, in a way that he looks thrilling. So when we talk about bringing back honor and glory, pointing it back to God, our Creator, to live the reason for our own existence, it's to show the world, to show others, and show all around us how great of a God He truly is. How great of a God He truly is, right? When we talk about this, we talk about worship, we talk about all these kind of things. When we love something, we're supremely devoted to it. We do things, we work really hard for those things, right? Like, for instance, people who love basketball or love soccer, love any specific sport, it says they'll continue to practice it over and over and over again. They'll devote their time, they'll devote their attention to it in order to become better at the sport more and more, bringing glory. They're showing people, hey, look how great this sport is, right? Same thing with people who really love cooking. They'll devote a lot of time. People who love food, they'll eat that food, right? Have you ever eaten something so good and not gone, right? If you've never done that, where you've eaten something, you're like, it means you've never really eaten good food. But for people who have really eaten good food, one of the big things they have to do is they have to tell other people about how good it is, right? I forgot, man, I can't remember off the top of my head who said it, but that act of praise is the fulfillment of that enjoyment, right? By giving it praise, you are fulfilling your enjoyment of that specific thing. And so likewise, when you serve, whether it's within church, right, whether it's in one way or another, you are doing so by pointing out, hey, listen, check this out. Our God is so great. Our God is so wonderful. They love it. So John Piper says, this is what service is, right? Serving God. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's kind of small, but hopefully you guys can see it. So serving God is what we were made to do as His creatures, but our service has been corrupted by our sin and rebellion, which has rendered us unable to please Him. An important part of the gospel is that in Jesus Christ, we can begin to serve God again with the promise of being able to serve Him perfectly and forever in the age to come. The Christian service is our privilege and delight. Only Christians can serve God. Only Christians can serve God. You cannot serve God if you do not love God. You cannot serve God if you do not love God, right? So for all those people that have grown up within the church who are doing all these different kind of things, right? Even in the scripture it says, when you get to judgment and they say, Lord, didn't I do all these things in your name? Didn't I cast out demons, do all these things? And then in that time, Jesus said, go away, I never knew you, right? For them, it's not really truly service to God. Right? And the reason why this is so important to make that distinction is because if we do not understand that service to God is only done by people who love God, if we don't understand that particular point, we won't understand why all these other good things that people do isn't truly service to God. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me say it one more time, right? Unless God is at the center of your heart, and only Christians can have that, only the ones who believe in Jesus as Lord and Savior can have that. Every single good act and every single good deed that we do is not God-centered, it's man-centered. And anything that's not glorifying to God isn't considered service, and it isn't considered good. Right? So in order for us to be able to serve, you need to have Jesus within your life. You need to have Jesus within you. Okay? So now that we kind of understand a little bit more about what service is, the question now is, who do we serve? Who do we serve? Okay? Two answers. Number one, God. Right? Number two, others. Right? The first answer, very obvious. All of our service, everything that we do, is in service to God. Very obvious answer. If that's not your number one answer, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if you're paying attention to it or not. Okay. right? So number one, God, right? Revelation chapter 4, verse 11. In Revelation, where it talks about the end time, right? We have the saints. The saints, these are the ones that have already passed, that have moved on into heaven, right? This is what they say. They say, worthy are you, O Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created. This is the ESV version. Other versions translate this as, for you created all things, and they exist for your honor and glory. They exist for your honor and for your glory. All right. My boy Kirk says this. He says, this means at the most basic level, all that God had created was made to serve him. The creation does not exist independently of God, but continually depends on him for its existence and sustenance. God does not need the creation needs him, and as it fulfills its purpose, it testifies to his existence, wisdom, and glory. Brothers and sisters, this is the reason why we were created. We were created in order so that we can serve God. And I know there's part of you, some of you guys might actually be saying, well, that sounds like a terrible existence. And some of you are saying, what's the point of that? That sounds like such a terrible way to live our life. Why is God so egotistical? Why is he like this? Why can't he just let us live our own lives in a very happy way? You know, I think there are a lot of people that definitely struggle with that. People who, there's a lot of people who definitely struggle with that. They struggle with this idea of God living this kind of life. But the big thing, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a split second. Josh's question distracted me. Josh, I'll get to that question in a second, right? But the thing is, because God is our creator and God created us for a very specific purpose, within that, we are created that our ultimate joy and our ultimate peace can be found in our service to God. You know, when God had originally created Adam and Eve, when God created all of us, he created us for that very clear and very distinct and specific purpose, right? To essentially bring glory and honor to him. Right? And that can come in a lot of different forms. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later today. But to understand that us as God's creation was created to obey and to love God, that is where we will find our ultimate joy and our ultimate peace. That is where we will find our purpose, right? Because for all of people, no matter what it is, they're always looking for something to worship, right? John Calvin says that our hearts are idol factories, and the reason they're idol factories is because we're created to want to worship something in one form or another. We're always doing that. Whether you are a Christian or whether you're not a Christian, you are still obligated. Well, you're not obligated, but you tend to want to worship something or another, right? So that's why we have so many different things. Like we have, we worship celebrities, we worship, other people. We look to all these different things that to occupy our time, to devote ourselves to. You know, Korea, they don't even hide it. They call themselves K-pop idols, right? It's straight up. Just there's no disguising it. That they're creating these things to want to be objects of worship. But because of our own sinfulness, because of what God has done, we are brought back to it. Because to be honest, God doesn't need our worship. God doesn't need our service. God doesn't need all these different kind of things. Right? But it testifies. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Second thing, others. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. And so, scripturally speaking, we are created not just to worship ourselves, but to worship other people as well. We are created, not worship, to serve other people other than ourselves, right? So we serve God, we serve others. In this way, we have a very vertical and horizontal aspect of the different relationships that we have, right? In serving the vertical, right, we find we grow in our relationship with God, but in serving in the horizontal, horizontal, we find that our relationship with one another, and we bring people closer to God in that way. That's all I wrote? Well, that is okay. But going on this real quick, I think actually I'll go on to the next point. So why do we serve? I kind of went over that already. But these are a couple extra points too, right? Why? Gifts of the Spirit were given for the edification of the church, and God served us first. Gifts of the Spirit were given for the edification of the church. Every single one of us, we're very unique in the way that we are created. A lot of us are talented in one form or another. I don't think why is the right question. I should have wrote something else for this one. But one of the important things we need to know for serving is you and me, we're all gifted in one way or another. Right? Some of us are definitely much more outgoing. We're definitely prone to be made to be more welcoming. Right? Like, for instance, I have no problem going up to people and introducing myself, saying hello and trying to connect other people. That's one of my giftings. I think I'm definitely good at that. Others of you are very good, technically speaking. You're good at, working on technical things, right? God has given you all these gifts in order to be able to help to edify the church, right? Wow, that's really all I wrote. I should have worked a little bit more harder on this PowerPoint, okay? All right. Secondly, God served us. God served us, right? One of the big things, right? Mark 10:45, it says, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. One of the big things is Jesus himself is the perfect example of how we are to lead our life. And when we see the way that Jesus lived his life as God, King, coming down in the form of man in order to serve, we find ourselves, how can we ourselves not serve others as well? Jesus was continually serving other people in his time here on earth. And he did so in such a perfect way. He fed the hungry. He reached out to those that were lost. He healed the sick. Obviously, we're not Jesus, and so we don't have miraculous abilities that Jesus did, but we still have the ability to go and reach out to love and to help other people as well. And in everything that he did so in obedience to God and always pointing back to God in everything that he did. Likewise, for us as the church, God has given us these different gifts, these different abilities. Right. So bring me to my last point. So how do we serve? How do we serve? Right? We serve by recognizing our gifting. We recognize our gifting. And for me, growing up within the church, one of the things we used to do a lot in our youth group was we used to have these spiritual gift tests, right? And I think some of our older teachers, I'm pretty sure Tim teacher did this. I think Pastor Steve might have done this, where you had to take this survey, this quiz. It's kind of like a BuzzFeed quiz, where you write down all these different kind of things and you figure out what it is that you're gifted at. Are you a welcoming person? Are you a musical person? Are you outgoing? Are you more introverted? How are these different gifts that you can do in order to be able to serve the church? Right? Josh said he took it for missions, right? But the thing is, the best way for you to figure out what you're gifting within the church is, I didn't write it down. This PowerPoint's useless, right? The best way is to be interacting with other members of the church, members of the church, right? If you can imagine, there's stories where people go to Africa and they donate all of these different things. Like they'll donate clothes or shoes or whatever it may be, and they'll take them out to like this rural part of Africa, and they'll get all these things. Like, what are we supposed to do with this? This is useless to us. This is not what we need, right? This is an example of people who are well-meaning. They intend to do good, but in doing so, they're actually not helping them at all. They're actually putting more of a burden on them. Right? Likewise for us, when we are within a church, but we're not interacting with one another, if we're not seeing what the need is, then all of those spiritual gift tests that we take, Absolutely useless. It's useless. It's in this interaction between you and me and others that we find out, one, what is the need? How can I serve other people? How can I do all these kind of things? And two, what is it that I'm able to do? What is it that I'm able to do? You know yourself, regardless of whether or not you take these tests, right? Some of you guys know, you're like, oh, you know what? I think I could lead praise. I think I could do that. You know, you're interested, you love music, it's something that you want to do. You're like, oh, maybe this is something I can do. Like, hey, you know what? I like meeting people. Maybe I can be on welcoming. Maybe that's something I can do. Says others are like, you know what? I'm not so gifted in these outgoing things, but I am good at cleaning. So maybe I'll help clean behind the scenes. Maybe I can do all these weird things. Others of you are good at encouraging people by calling one another up, saying, hey, you know, I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing good, whatever it may be, right? Those are the different ways that you can go ahead and you can serve as well. Right? And so this is the big thing. That is how you can essentially serve. How can you serve within the church? How can you serve others? It's by going out there and by being in the congregation, meeting with the people, talking to them, and bringing all other people together. One of the other advantages of doing service in this way, by talking to people, finding out what it is that you can do, what you can do for others, is that it unites the church. It brings the church closer and closer together. It makes it so that for many of you who may have taken that servant team quiz before, to really make that church that kind of family that you really wanted, right? And I know especially now it's difficult because of quarantine, and I know, you know, even for myself, I'm not going to lie, where I want to be able to interact, where I want to be able to kind of talk. Because for me, I realize that a lot of my motivation comes from when I actually see your faces, when I can shake your hand, when I can have conversations with you guys. And I realize more and more that as we are further and further apart, we have to make even more of an effort in order to be able to do so. Right? Romans 12:3, he says this, for by the grace given to me, I tell everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he should think. Instead, think sensibly, as God has distributed a measure of faith to each one. Okay, Paul is basically telling you is that, you know, don't be whatchamacallit, don't be arrogant in your dealing with one another. Don't be arrogant in thinking that your skills are much higher than any other skills. Instead, you need to think yourself sensibly, saying, well, maybe I do have this gifting, maybe I do have this ability. How can I use it in order to serve others and to serve God? You know, there are, you know, I've talked to a lot of, you know, teams over at this church. These are adults. Some of them are your parents. Some of them are, they're at other churches now. But one of the big things is I've met people who have very strong heart to want to serve God in one form or the other, right? Some of them are very, God has gifted them, you know, in their work financially. And so in that aspect, they can see that, you know, they say, God has given me this money. I'm going to give my money in order to serve the church, to edify the church, to encourage the members. And they'll do something. I know one member who does something called reverse tithing, right? For those that don't know what tithe is, it's basically the idea of when you give offering, give 10% of what you earn to the church. 10% of what you earn to the church. Definitely a lot more than some of the $1 that you guys give for service. But this particular person, he does reverse tithing, where he supports him and his family for on 10% of what he earns, and he donates 90% of what he earns. And his testimony and the thing that he shared with me is that he's still never had any problems financially in doing so. Right? Not to say that if you guys do that, that God will continue to bless you in that aspect, but for him, you know, that was his act of service in that aspect. And then there are others I know who just dedicate a lot of their time and their effort to serving within the church, just continually coming out, helping others. I know others that are very good at encouraging. You know, they're very good at encouraging others by writing on, you know, their Facebook page, sending them private messages, whatever it may be. But it's a way that through their actions, you can truly see that God is glorified in everything that you do. I guess that's my last slide. Okay. So I'm not going to read it for you guys, but if you guys get a chance, maybe Steve, if you can read it in your discussion group, and high school will read it together as well. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 14 to 26. First Corinthians chapter 12, verses 14 to 26. It's talking about gifts of the Spirit. And I don't want to go into a discussion about stuff like tongues and prophecies or anything like that. Instead, what Paul's main purpose in telling them this is that these gifts were given, right? Not for your own edification. It's not just for yourself, but purely so that God's church would grow and that they would be edified and that they would be encouraged. That was the reason why they exist. That's the reason why they do these things. And so it's useless for the church to be able to use these things for things other than for his glorification. Okay. I'm going to take a quick question. It says, so if our serving doesn't grow our love for God, we aren't serving God, but serving for our own benefit. No, I'm not saying that if our serving doesn't grow our love for God. I'm saying Ben, I'll type that out for you in a second. If our serving doesn't grow our love for God, we aren't serving God, but serving for our own benefit. Like I said, I think serving, I forgot what I said when you typed that question. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying that only Christians can truly serve God. Josh, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, not 2 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. When I said that only Christians can serve God, because only Christians have God at the center of everything that they do, right? Non-Christians, they don't have God in their hearts, and therefore the service that they do is man-centered. It's not God-centered. That's basically what I was trying to say in that question. Hopefully that makes sense. Any other questions? I don't know what this is. Gifting quizzes, these are like, I can send you an example of what that means. I don't know if Pastor Steve wants to use that in his discussion. I think for us, maybe we'll do that as well. I don't think they're a total waste of time, but I think it's better for you to be able to figure out how to serve by being part of the church rather than taking these quizzes. But maybe we'll do that for our discussion group on Zoom. Okay. Any other questions? That's probably gonna be the last time I ever use Google Slides. I thought I typed up a lot more than that, but I definitely didn't. But if we have no other questions, Steve, if you want to go ahead and post in your Zoom link there, and I'm gonna go ahead and post my Zoom as well. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna split up between junior high and high school. And then we're gonna have our own discussion group. So just give me a quick second. I think Steve might actually be making his right now. Senior high, please go ahead and go to that link. Please go ahead and go to that one right now. And then, okay. Looks like looks like Zoom link can't be posted. Hey, Steve. Steve, your link won't get. It's not posting, right? On the chat? I don't think it's coming out. Did mine come out? Mine's not coming out. Okay. High school, go ahead and go to the Facebook group. I'm going to go ahead and post it in the Facebook group, so please go ahead and join there. Oh yeah, meeting ID does work. Okay. Oh, I'll put it in the description. Okay. Man, sorry guys. I've been having technical difficulties all day today. Okay, senior high, go ahead and I think if you go into the description on my YouTube, on the bottom of the description here, you might have to refresh the page, but hopefully that'll come out. Otherwise, if you guys can't see it there, just go to our Connect and Ignite Facebook group. And you should see the meeting there, okay? All right, let me see. Okay, please go ahead and go to those, either on GroupMe for junior high and then for Facebook, or in the description on the bottom. I've started the Zoom right now, so please go ahead and go to that one. Hey Josh, I see Jesse's on there. If anyone else is going to join, please go ahead and join that. Otherwise, thank you all for joining me. I hope you guys got something out of this. What's group? Enoch is asking what's GroupMe. Okay, I think that should be good. All right. Otherwise, thank you all for joining me. I will see you all later. Enoch, just message Pastor Steve directly, either through Kakao or whatever it is, okay? All right, bye.